I'm Tharanki Ramacharaka. In this self-mastery short, I'm going to say some things that I don't have time here. We don't have time. You and I, in a self-mastery shorts video, don't have time to go into in detail. Evolvement of humanity and self-mastery. All right. When it comes to evolvement of humanity, in order to make our contribution from a self-mastery point of view to the evolvement of humanity, one key thing to take into consideration is to just take care of our own personal evolvement as our contribution to the evolvement of humanity. I mean, that's a good place to start, right? Now, in the New Age ideology, well, with respect to the New Age ideology, I want to make it clear here, if you haven't found out already in this channel, I'm not a New Ager. If I'm any ager, I'm an old ager. There are some New Age buzzwords with respect to the evolvement of humanity. Buzzwords such as ascension, ascension of conscious awareness into the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension. We hear both terms, right? We also hear about DNA activation. And there are a few other buzz ideas, buzz concepts that manifest in buzzwords. I don't know about all that stuff. I've seen lists of some of the symptoms of DNA activation, and I tell you my point of view is that at least 50% of those symptoms don't look very good to me. They look like symptoms of perhaps some DNA manipulation taking place that's not in a very good direction. But what do I know? DNA activation. I think myself that there's some DNA manipulation going on, perhaps by way of chemtrails and genetically modified organisms that serve as genetically modified foods for us. And anything that's genetically modifying our food probably still is in the food when we eat it, in the organisms when we eat them, and therefore they modify our own DNA. And I've heard about some of this stuff and the DNA manipulation that may be taking place just in that area. Probably is not toward our own evolvement. But I'm just, what do I know? Okay? What I'm more certain of is that, yes, humanity does evolve over long periods, and there have been multiple races of humanity through time, such as perhaps the Atlantean race, the Lemurian race, the current Adam-Kadmon race, and there will be another. Apparently, according to age-old thought, not just the little compartment of New Age thought, but long-term wisdom teachings, is that we are in the fifth race right now. We are members of the fifth root race of humanity, and a sixth one might be emerging within the next, I don't know, 50 to 150,000 years from now. And each one of these races has its sub-races, and we're, as I recall, in the fifth one of those right now, and there's a sixth about to probably start to emerge, but that'll be, in the next few thousand years. Not anything like right now we're ascending into the fifth dimension. Like I said, I don't know about that part. I'm more certain of this other, and some characteristics that are, I guess, scheduled for the sixth root race are things like autonomic control, self-mastery, just innate self-mastery over the autonomic nervous system. Another would be the ability to see in close-up detail, very close details of things, but not being able to see at great distances. And evolvement of our sense of vision. This would be, again, the ability to see, to use our visual sensory apparatus for extreme close examinations of things, to be able to see things close up, minute things that we currently cannot see, and also the development of telepathy as just a characteristic of humanity. All right, so if you want to personally evolve yourself to apply principles of self-mastery and gain self-mastery in ways that push you in the direction that humanity is probably trying to push itself via, universal will, then perhaps it would be useful to consider applying some tools of self-mastery in these directions. Now, I can't go into all the details here, all the different aspects of this, and different reasons for it, and different levels of understanding this. So I'm just going to make a couple suggestions here in this direction. With respect to autonomic nervous system control, a very good place to start with self-mastery in this direction is control over your breathing. Breathing is something we can easily get control over. And there are many, many, many facets to this, all right? In Indian philosophy, in Raja Yoga and so forth, it's been called pranayama, control of life force via breath control. You see, our breathing is an autonomic function. It's also a conscious function. We can consciously control it, or we can just let it go on its own, in which case it's an autonomic function. So we can go back and forth. We can assume conscious control over it, or not. So it's immediately available for conscious control. It is an autonomic function. It's also interesting that the breath cycle, the exhale and inhale, it ties our first breath to our last in life. It also has something to do with our interior and the exterior world at the same time. The inhale, in, and back out. We're taking in something from outside and making it an internal thing, at least physically, but also there is life force involved with it. We do take in life force, prana, through the air with our breathing. And breath control is a way to life force control. So learning to take voluntary control over the autonomic function of breathing is a step in the direction of self-mastery that is in alignment with the direction that humanity is eventually going. Control over autonomic functions, conscious control over autonomic functions. So elsewhere here in this playlist, I'll discuss some simple breath control techniques and, control of life force or prana via it. But here I'm just pointing out that with respect to autonomic control, breath control is a simple way into this. And with respect to visual perception of close-up detail, this is good. Practicing things that tend toward in that direction are very good attention control practice techniques. For example, practice this, all right? Take something as simple as a pencil and closely examine it. Pay attention to it. Focus on it. Use it as an attention focus Control technique. Learn to look at things in detail, honing in your attention on that object of investigation, on that object of sense, of your visual sense, to the exclusion of other thoughts, to the exclusion of distractions, by continually just honing in on the details of something as simple as a pencil. Take note to all of his details. See how many you can recall. See how many you can write down. And once you've done it one time, go back and do it again and see what else you come up with until you have exhausted, till you have got out of everything out of the details of that pencil. Very good attention control training, and also very good at training your visual sense to see detail close up. And with respect to telepathy, I'm not going to, in this little video here, give telepathy instructions. What I'm going to suggest is that, to bear in mind this, that if the human race was endowed, everybody just naturally, born with telepathic ability, well then, folks, there are no more secrets to be kept, are there? So good practice in this direction right now that has to do with self-mastery is to act as though and think as though and feel as though everybody can clearly read our thoughts and our emotional states. There are no secrets. So if you have a dirty little thought about some woman or some guy across the street, and you might be a little embarrassed, that person might know exactly what you're thinking, then don't think it. Replace that thought with something else. Perhaps what you're actually doing at the moment. Replace it with that. If you don't want somebody to know just how depressed you might feel or how bad you might be feeling, then replace negative emotional states with their opposites by focusing on them. Instruction in doing that occurs elsewhere here in my channel and here in this playlist called Self-Mastery Shorts. Emotional states are vital to our self-mastery and to the maintenance, the healthy maintenance of the energy fields of our body, or of our being, our energy fields, our magnetic sphere. And control over them with respect to, well, other people might be able to easily detect what our emotional states are, even if we're not showing anything about them outwardly, just keeping in mind that it could just be the case. Just always maintain this possibility in your mind, this idea that everybody can know. Everybody knows what's in our minds. Then maintain a positive mental state. Turn negative mental states into their opposites by focusing on the opposite feelings. That's a little bit more difficult than it is to say, I know, but there are methods for doing this. And the principle of opposites and polarity is the key to doing it. And there are a few tips and tricks also, which we will get into elsewhere, or already have here in this channel. The mood of calm confidence, or the calm attention technique, which I've posted here in this playlist, is one such tip and trick to it. Excuse me. Anyway, self-mastery with evolvement of humanity in mind, us being members of humanity. If we want to move our own personal evolvement via self-mastery in the direction that universal will seems to be moving humanity in that same direction, we want to cooperate with universal law and universal will. These are excellent considerations to take into mind, to bring into mind, and to bring to bear. And I just gave you at least one thing to do with respect to self-mastery for each of these three humanity evolvement directions: autonomic control, visual perception of close-up detail, and telepathy. I'm Theron Q. Ramacharaka, and be well.